Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. And last week, I learned that quite a few of my subscribers are actually kind of scared of spiders, but don't worry, this week's review is, Deep Blue Sea, a killer shark movie. Oh, shit. In any case, I hope those of you who turned the review off at the first mention of that are not the same folks who did that for Eight-Legged Freaks. Point is, the subgenre of shark movie isn't quite on the same level as the giant bug movie. I mean, yeah, you got movies today like Sharknado and Sharknado 2, but way back when, you didn't have quite so many sharksploitation movies popping up in theaters. Now I could probably do a whole damn summer of them. But Deep Blue Sea isn't just a shark-themed horror movie, but science fiction, as these aren't normal sharks. They have been physically altered by the power of science. That means they don't have to behave at all like sharks. Which does make me wonder, why make a killer shark movie that has nothing to do with actual sharks? And if you're gonna do that, why not just go all out and make something like Sharknado? Anyway, let's take a look at Deep Blue Sea and see... Why do people always describe the sea as being blue? Have they never been to New Jersey? The movie opens to a dark night where out in the dark depths of the ocean a terror awaits.
Did you feel something?
Yeah, I feel something.
Teenagers having sex. Which, to a slasher villain, is like Twinkies laced with crack.
We're having a party, man.
In case you were having trouble noticing, I thought I'd mention that. I mean, we've got the women and the alcohol here. Enough for all four of us. It's a decent-sized D&D party, so I figure it works here. But oh no! Their wine spills! And it's not the scent of blood that attracts sharks, but the vague appearance of it. As after this, the boat rocking increases exponentially, which means... we get to find out that every last one of these characters is fucking morons. Yeah, it's a shark, it's scary, but every single one of them backed up from it over 5 feet until they fell off the fucking boat. Let's just say I won't be surprised if I find out that none of them know how to swim. More importantly, they have one of those extra inconvenient boats that is even harder to get back on than the kind you find in Final Destination movies. However, they are saved in the nick of time by big hero man Carter Blake, played by Thomas Jane. I like to think he is contemplating shooting the teens as well, just for the XP. This brings us to a big city, which obviously the movie is not going to take place in, but it introduces more big faces to the story. Saffron Burrows as Dr. Susan McAllister, who is working on the science project, and her investor Russell Franklin, played by Samuel L. Jackson, whom sadly at no time declares his exhaustion for these motherfucking sharks in his motherfucking movie. Her research has something to do with finding a cure for Alzheimer's disease, but due to the recently escaped test shark, Jackson doesn't want to continue funding the project.
Have you ever known anyone with Alzheimer's? By the end, all my father could do was ask why my mother wasn't at home.
And each time I told him she was dead, I had to watch him take that loss like a car wreck.
Have you ever known someone with Alzheimer's? If he could actually recognize you as his daughter and not his wife as he regresses further and further back, he was doing really fucking good. Trust me, I've known people with Alzheimer's. She pitches to Jackson and Ronnie Cox what sounds like the exact same line of bullshit she would have used to get the funding in the first place, and evidently that's good enough as Jackson agrees to give the 48 hours she requests to prove the research will produce results. Instead of, promising the sharks won't escape anymore, or explaining how in the fuck this shark managed to escape, which they don't for the entire running time of the movie. Never mind, they reach the super high-tech research facility.
Looks like Alcatraz floats.
Because Alcatraz was landlocked. In what universe? We meet several more important faces here, such as Janice Higgins, a marine biologist played by Jacqueline McKenzie, and Fancy McFence. Surely the Foley department can make this Home Depot-grade chain-link fence sound super high-tech. We also meet Blake, who we already know, but now we see he's the kind of jackass to do a simple job as dangerously as possible just to show off how stupid he is. We also have the tower operator Brenda Kearns, played by Ida Totoro. From her we learn that a huge storm just so happens to be heading right for them, and we see that most of the crew is on the boat going home. Which almost sounds fucking exactly like Jurassic Park, until you take into consideration that the giant storm heading right for them is gonna fuck everything up. Actually, doesn't fuck anything up because it has no bearing on the plot whatsoever. Woo! Finally, we see Stellan Skarsgård playing the genius Dr. Jim Whitlock, and Well, you might want to brace yourself for these two. Michael Rappaport as, surprise surprise, plucky comic relief Tom Scoggins, and the chef, Preacher, played by motherfucking LL Cool J.
You got a big fat butt.
You know what, Bert? You were trying my last nerve. Don't make me drown your feathery ass.
Who is named Preacher, is a preacher, and a chef, and an alcoholic, and motherfucking LL Cool J. Also, he is so integral to the plot, 95% of the scenes he's in, he's completely alone.
Food was excellent, brother.
You're the guy that got caught in that avalanche, right? Like black men don't have enough ways to get killed without climbing up some stupid-ass mountain in the middle of God's nowhere. Need to leave that to the white folks, brother.
Okay, did everyone get that? They're black, okay? They're very, very black. Just want you to know that the skin color is the most important character trait. You have to acknowledge this. You don't want to sound racist. You don't. Skin color, most important. Don't be racist. In case you're wondering, the reason they have sharks to cure Alzheimer's is because sharks are magic!
Sharks never get cancer or go blind or show any loss of brain activity as they age.
Yeah, they never go blind. Those amazing shark eyes. You know, the ones that aren't completely colorblind have some cone receptors that are able to distinguish shades of green. So, it's like sharks live their entire lives playing Game Boy. It's amazing. Point is, there's protein in the shark's forebrain that they believe can reactivate human brain cells just by extracting it and plopping it on a human brain like a cranial health potion. Don't know how they'd be able to make it into a pill like the lady was saying earlier to Samuel L. Jackson in the office room, but, oh well, when has magic science ever had to worry about being consistent?
I'm just amazed that we've come so far so fast without genetic tampering.
And Mako sharks are naturally the size of Greyhound buses, and only willing to feed on other sharks. Quite astonishing, isn't it? She establishes that this oddly specific genetic therapy would be in violation of miscellaneous arbitrary rule number 46, and they leave it at that. More importantly, it's time for the big song and dance number where they send Hero Man in to corral the predators of the deep.
Tell me I didn't see that.
Which part? The crap CGI sharks, or the fact that super amazing research facility uses the ultra high-tech ability of sending one dude in with a blowgun?
Sharks do not swim backwards, they can't.
Oh, the fuck physics, it's a movie part. I was going to let that slide, but considering you brought it up, perhaps you can explain how the sharks being smarter somehow means that they can pull off maneuvers that their bodies are not physically capable of. Nah, let's never bring that up again, because the sharks are busy hacking the security cameras with their teeth. Point is, it looks like Carter is as good as dead, but do not worry. He arbitrarily opted to do this basic task in as dangerous a way as possible, so we can think that's how he managed to survive. Despite the fact that it would have been much easier for him to just keep the scuba gear on and shoot the motherfucker in the face. Does the ambush make the tranquilizer work better? Point is, they have the shark, so they can go ahead with the experiment, hitting it with an MRI scan that somehow keeps working after they remove the machine, and extracting the magical shark brain protein fluid stuff. Come to think of it, wouldn't it have been a hell of a lot easier and cheaper for them to just catch a shark and cut out its brain?
Introducing 2 cc's of the protein complex into cultured, inactive brain neurons of an Alzheimer's patient.
Whoa, 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 hold the fuck up, hold the fuck up. You cultured brain cells. You introduced neurons to a petri dish and grew new ones? Then your problem is already solved! And you cultured a marble-sized chunk of it. A little overboard, don't you think? They look for the molecular transmission to show neurological activity, but instead it starts sparking. This is Hollywood though, so static brain cells are good. Therefore, we can all celebrate with a smoke. You know, I always wondered what the hell happened to Joe Camel. Obviously, as the shark has a taste for human blood, it should be destroyed, but you can count on Susan to fuck that up. More importantly, they can't help Dr. Whitlock on site for some reason, so they call in a rescue helicopter to the fucking hurricane that's going on, whom evidently are suicidal enough to say, fly into a hurricane? Sure, no problem. As I was looking at this, I was certain that the shark was going to just jump out of the water and eat the motherfucker they have dangling well within range. Interestingly enough, though, that's not nearly as stupid as what they end up pulling off. Instead of that, the airlift fails because the winch breaks. No reason given, it just does. dunking the poor bastard while the helicopter pilot doesn't feel like ascending to counteract that. This results in some impromptu marine fishing, where the sharks, no bullshit, use the line to pull the helicopter into the control tower, killing the rescue team and the lone woman in one ridiculous explosion. But wait, there's more! Sharky Kruger didn't actually eat Dr. Whitlock and brings his stretcher around to the big-ass window by the underwater lab everyone ran back into between shots. It then throws the guy at the fucking window. And that somehow works, even though there happens to be extreme friction underwater. Now, if you shoot a rifle underwater, you're lucky if the damn thing goes more than 5 feet. Yet this thing is able to throw a motherfucker into the glass, which he could have exerted more force into had he just rammed the damn thing. And why did they build a super expensive high-tech lab underwater with a giant fucking glass window? So that everyone can stare like fucking idiots, waiting until the last possible second before they remember to run from the big floody death thing. Predictably, they all make it to safety in the nick of time, but now have to worry about how the hell they're going to get back to the surface. Which they were just at before they all decided to run down. Did anyone explain why they all had to run down to the bottom level before the shark hit the fan? As the movie has now progressed to the point where we watch this group of assholes have their sanity slowly slip away, occasionally interrupted for the adventures of LL Cool J alone in the water park, we learn that somehow the giant fucking sharks are inside the facility. Don't know how they managed to slip in the narrow corridors, but it's a slasher movie, so they gotta do their part.
Is that a goddamn shark broke through that door?
I expect so.
You expect so? Am I the only asshole down here who thinks that a tad bit odd?
It could be worse. Just be glad that their experiments weren't combining them with octopi or natural disasters. Samuel L. Jackson still demands to know exactly what the backstory behind the 3 test sharks is, and gets Susan to spill the beans. Surprise! They did break the arbitrary and oddly specific rule about genetic manipulation, because the sharks' brains weren't big enough to extract an adequate amount of proteins, so they decided to mutate them into extra brainy sharks. No problem there, right? Which again, I have to point out, sounds like an awful lot of trouble to go through instead of just having a few extra sharks to extract magic brain goo from. This results in pretty much everyone present agreeing that Susan is a cunt. Doesn't slow them down much when it comes to trying to find a way out, so they head to the water tunnel. Problem is, the submarine we never saw them use has been rendered unusable as it is slightly askew.
Listen, we put these on. They help fight hypothermia.
And with Aquatica being around the same latitude as Hawaii, obviously the water must be frigid. Jackson says their best bet is to just swim their way out, but fear of sharks leads Rappaport to suggest they take the maintenance ladder. Another way up they neglected to mention while rattling off how many paths they can't take thanks to flooding. But the problem here is they don't know if it's still sealed, or if opening the door will royally fuck this pressurized chamber.
You could bring the whole facility down.
Stop establishing things. You're not good with consistent physics, movie. They're also not good at working together under pressure, and Jackson is tired of these motherfucking whiners in this motherfucking facility, taking the opportunity to give a rousing speech about his own checkered past, that some who actually survived the avalanche died because of infighting of the group. So no more!
First, we're gonna seal off this.
Okay, I know we're only at step 1, but I'm already not liking this plan. So, fuck that noise, let's see how the maintenance ladder works out. Well, that was easy. Guys, there's no delayed reaction to a sudden drop of air pressure. In line with keeping things as consistent as possible, the whole facility does not come crashing down. In fact, this move doesn't seem to have done much to cause that at all, but nevertheless they race to get up the ladder while Mako Myers works on breaking in. Fearing the rising water, they opt to open a partially flooded floor to divert some of it. Though by partially they mean completely, which would only fill the shaft faster. But it's not like these guys have done anything smart for the whole movie, so why start now? In that spirit, when the ladder breaks and Miss Higgins winds up submerged, she doesn't just swim 5 fucking feet back to the base of the ladder, instead treading water like a good morsel long enough to become the next course. And I should also point out they established there's only 3 sharks, and they're Mako sharks, and the largest Mako shark on record only needs to eat about 40 pounds every 2 days, and these motherfuckers have eaten an entire shark today, and 2 people, at least. So, why the fuck are they still hungry? But now caught in the sad, depressing, oh dear blonde innocent woman character died mood, who should come to save them all but LL Cool J? Yeah, he had some other scenes where sharks were chasing him around, and he actually did manage to kill one by blowing them up, which I guess, looking back, was actually kind of plot relevant. But he's going to be more plot relevant now in the group at the hour and 8-minute mark. He's still not involved in the planning process, though. That goes to Carter and Rappaport. They plan to use the somehow still functional power to drain the water from the stairways above them. This requires the two of them head off alone, which leaves Susan to obsess over her research again, and LL Cool J to show how different his scenes will be now that he's part of the group.
We will begin with the perfect omelet, which is made with 2 eggs, not 3. Amateurs often add milk for density. This is a mistake.
Not one fucking bit. Still flying solo for every part of the movie he's in. Great. Back on plot-relevant territory, Rappaport reroutes the power, and then gets fucking eaten. Susan, on the other hand, sneaks back into her cabin where the research samples from today's experiment were stashed. Okay, let me get this straight. They did the experiment, put the results in the baggie, then Mr. Dr. Man gets his arm bitten off, and they rush to the surface, and then rush back down to the lab. But before they rush all the way back down to the lab, before the shark brings them down to break the window, she made a stop off in her personal cabin to stow the research away in the most unprofessional way possible. Is that about right? I'll say this much, it makes the giant Mako sharks hiding in waist-deep water somehow a lot more believable. Realizing we haven't gotten enough TNA for her character to be memorable, Susan takes off her wetsuit, trying to make the scene at least somewhat enjoyable. Or trying to look taller. Oh, she was protecting herself because rubber blocks electricity, and all the water soaked through that wetsuit would still conduct it, but that's not important. Similarly, the plastic bag with the research material in it would protect it too, but fuck physics, especially in this movie. With that in mind, the 3 survivors reach their goal, a pressurized chamber 60 feet below the surface.
What about us? Vest will bring you up too fast. Your lungs will pop like a balloon.
So, they acknowledge the Bends, or explosive balloon people from Hollywood, but their strategy is to open the thing and swim up to the surface as quickly as they can. Is it too much to ask for just a little consistency? If there's something good to say, I'll let you all know that I did hold my breath during the swimming up to the surface scene, and indeed they managed to make it before I had to breathe, so that's better than a lot of movies are about that. Still, sharks swim fuck tons faster than they do, picking up LL Cool J shortly after, whom is saved by the power of Christ, right in the fucking face. That's enough of him having screen time though, so he takes a nap. Seriously, despite huge blood loss, he's not even close to dead, he's just resting his eyes after gouging a shark's out. Here, the 2 others learn a terrifying truth to their current situation.
Those fences are titanium underneath, but on top they're just plain steel.
Which is about the same strength as titanium. The only real difference is that titanium is lighter, which makes it really pointless to make a chain-link fence out of titanium, especially underwater. But, well, they had to spend those millions on something. Evidently, it was the shark's plan all along to sink the lab to bring the just as strong but slightly heavier steel fences within ramming range and escape into the name drop.
Deep blue sea.
Of course, there was that whole giant fucking storm earlier with the 30-foot ocean swell, which means that with these 8-foot tall fences, the fuckers could have just swam out in the first act, but why do that? I mean, let's establish that they can break down steel doors, yet somehow have difficulty with titanium chain-link fences. Because Susan figures out that they should probably kill the shark before it escapes, because an escaping shark would be catastrophic! And it's not like that's how the movie opened. Oh, wait. The point is, they take 10 flares and somehow fish out enough gunpowder for 2.5 sticks of dynamite, which should take something like 450 flares, but fuck physics. They're just out of range anyway, so Susan figures out they need to lure the shark to them. With strawberry jam. The shark picks up the scent almost instantaneously, despite how far away they are, because fuck physics. Unfortunately, dumbass Carter doesn't shoot the thing, but drops the gun and dives in just in time for Susan to be ripped in fucking half and eaten. Funny thing, she was actually supposed to survive in the original cut of the movie. Test audiences hated that though, so fuck her. Instead, we get LL Cool J hobbling up half awake, not even aware of what the plan was to kill the shark, but no bother, he still shoots a thing and blows it the fuck up without too much difficulty. Which means, as much as I feel the man really didn't contribute anything to the overall plot, he was directly responsible for killing 2 of the 3 sharks. And I'm pretty sure he would have been fine with electrocuting one in his underwear if they had let him. And our story comes to a close with Susan digitally removed from the final scenes, but no bother, perhaps Carter meant that come hither look for LL Cool J all along.
Here comes the next shift.
And they get to be the first people to explain to everyone why they no longer have well-paying jobs. Oops. Well, that was Deep Blue Sea, and it's not too bad as long as you don't even know elementary school physics. Budget-wise, the movie comes off inconsistent with good-looking sets, lots of expensive water shots, and pretty damn good animatronics, but fucking asylum-grade CGI sharks. You can sum up the whole movie with the same sentiments. It sets up grand, impressive-sounding ideas, and when it comes to execution, falls flat on its face, tripping over the most basic details. One thing intimately important to both horror and science fiction is the ability for the audience to maintain a suspension of disbelief. You can introduce all sorts of strange and fantastic concepts, as long as they either explained well enough to be accepted, or at least don't go completely against what we already hold as true. Taking the time to explain a concept that you have to throw away some of the most basic concepts of science and physics in order to make it work isn't a good starting point. Beyond those problems, though, when you get down to it, the movie just has a very generic slasher vibe at its core. The sharks break down doors and hide in the shadows waiting for their victims. I wouldn't have been surprised if someone hid in a closet, only to find the shark was in the closet with them. Rather than modify the slasher model to fit around sharks as a villain, it comes off more that the studio modified sharks to fit into the slasher model. Overall, though, Deep Blue Sea has its moments. It's not something I would really recommend as great cinema, or even an example of decent storytelling, but it's one of those movies that rides the line of ridiculous, deliberately or not, and has genuine entertainment value as a result, coming in at 2 completely unnecessary, but welcome, naked scientists out of 5. Cinematography-wise, you might think it closer to a 3, but what with how they butchered science in a science-based plot, it really ends up hurting it, in my opinion. Thank you all for watching. I've been Shado, and remember, sharks don't actually care for the taste of human meat, but side characters are delicious.
Even in death, standards